Hello and welcome back. The last time this is where we got to in computer graphics. We're able to come out with an A cylinder and also an A box. We tried to change the A box to form more like a rectangle, which we have a red rectangle here. So in this particular video, what we're going to talk about is positioning and relative positioning. There are times when you draw your objects, as you saw, when we started drawing the primitive, which is the A box. You could see the A box was located somewhere, which by default was not visible on the VR page, or virtually on the page that we see. So we had to now use the mouse to drag out and bring the objects in there. So this time round, this tells us that by default, the objects that we draw on our scene inherently has a default position, which is 0, 0, 0. So this tells you that our camera, the camera that we have, the object that we draw, any object we draw on our scene, they are all located at that particular at a position of 0, 0, 0. So for instance, if we should draw something like this one, and we draw maybe this object, without specifying the position, they all would overlap and fall within the position of 0, 0, 0, which is inherently the default position for any object that is drawn on the scene. So by default, as you can see from here, as I just said, the position attribute, which we already have here, is 0, 0, 0. Now, if I should refresh the page, I should refresh the particular page. You can see the object that we have is just the same as what we had earlier on. So we drew an A box, we drew an A cylinder, and they were all located at a position which we see over here, which is the 0, 0, 0. Now, when you visit this site, which is whatwhenhow.com, it gives you a brief overview of how we have the XYZ, how it's displayed. So by default, for right-handed people, we have the X, the Z protruding, towards you, the Y, which is pointing vertical, and the X pointing on horizontal. So from here you can see you have the X, which is our thumb, pointing, the positive X pointing to the right side, and the Y pointing to the top, as you can see, and the Z comes out of the screen. So that is how our XYZ object, which is a 3D object that we create, this is using the right-handed rule. This is how we'll be able to position most of our objects. Now, so from here on the position, you can see we have 0, 0, 0. So it means the position of the object is found at the origin, which is X, Y, Z. So the X value for this is 2, is 0. The Y value is also 0, and the Z value is also 0. So going back again to our objects that we have in our scene, now try and change the Y value from 0 to probably 7. So if it is 7, it means, as you can see from here, you can see 7 has brought the object towards us, more closer to us than compared to, sorry, let me go back again. It has brought the object more closer to us compared to previously when it was, you can see, okay, I think this gives a very good pictorial diagram of how it is. So you can see the object is now 7 away from the origin. Now, assuming I bring it up to probably, let's say 1, you can see it is still trying to move away from the origin. Probably 4 also moves away. 4, maybe 9 also moves away from the cylinder, which is located at the center of the origin of the scene. So of course, the camera is also located at the origin. So just like how your eye is, if we should have an object, if the position of your eye, which is the camera, is 000, and you have an object which is also within the same 000, this my eye will not be able to see the phone. So that should tell you that we have to find a way to position the camera at an angle that would make it more visible for us to see the object. So in this case, we have 9. So you can see the object, the A box is now out of it. Now, I would want us to change it to probably -7. So that tells you it goes inside. So we should see the object somewhere here if we should take that tangent. So I will change this one from 9 to probably -7. You can see the object now is at the other side of the screen. All right, that's quite okay. So I think now, so that is about positioning. Now, as you can see, we have relative position and also absolute position. So by absolute, it means if we have an object, for instance, if you have an object which is located on this particular A box, the position of this A box, also moves the object which is already assuming I have a circle in here which has been nailed to this box. So by absolute position, when I change the position of this, by default, when I change the position of this box, of course, the circle which has been nailed to this box also moves together with it. So that is the absolute position. So relative position has got to do with the position of an object relative to another object. So now let's try and go through briefly and talk about and add some few tips in here so that you get to appreciate what I mean. Now let us try and create possibly a child primitive which would be within the A box. So as I said, so by creating a child primitive, I mean to say we are more or less creating an object that will be nailed to this. This is the A box. So if we create another primitive within the A box, we have it nailed on the A box, which will eventually form more or less like the absolute position. So let's now create an A cylinder, which is probably, let me give it a name to make it easier for identification. So A circle, which is a primitive. I told you each of the graphic libraries have their own primitive that can be used. So entity. So in this case, I'm creating an of course, this is a cylinder that I'm going to create because it's within. It's still colored because it is within. Let me get it closer here. Let me close this one. So we have our objects falling within it. So we are still within the A box. So now let's try and create our A circle. There is a primitive. So in the same way as we did in web, we can now give it the property and its value. Now let's use a property called color and give it a color probably of, let's say, red. Of course, that is one way of also specifying objects within it. We can also change it and use maybe any of the hashtags, just like how we will use in our CSS, probably 333. All right, so we have this object. So now let's try and give it a side of double. And we use the double over here just to make it more easy, for us to make it more visible at both sides. If wherever we are, we're able to see both sides. So double, and let's give it a position. A position of probably, let's say 2. X, 2 axis, 2, 0, and probably 1. So you can see we have our objects in here. We can see the box before we brought it in. We brought the position. The position by default is always 000. So that's how come we don't see the object. But if we should scroll down and go down, or even go, sorry, this object is already at the position 0, 0, 0. So the circle should be within this particular object. Let's see if we can find. Okay, let me see. Unfortunately, let's go through this one and view it from here and see if we can have the object in here. So we have, let's change the position again. So the position is now 2. So the x-axis is 2, so meaning 2 away from this object. You can see the position of this one is 0, 0, 0. And this one is, so x. Let's bring this one here. Let me see. So we have the objects in here. Okay. You can see the circle. Let's try and increase the values of this to something that makes it more easier for us. So let's change the width to probably 8, the height to 4.5, the depth to probably 0.2. And mind you, all the values we have here are in meters, so you should be mindful of that. Let's change the position probably to the y-axis, which is more or less, we'll change this to 3. So we have the object a little up above this one. It's not from 0. If we had changed it, the value we would also have other ones. So we have this object over here. So sorry about that. So now that is about the A circle. So we have our A circle in here, which is our primitive for the circle. So moving this one to maybe 9 also moves. Moving this one to probably 9 also moves the objects together. So they all move together. Sorry. So this is because this A circle is a child of the A box. If we change the position of the A box, it also moves the position of the A circle. So if I should move this one to probably -10, which is away from the origin, you can see we have the object also moving together with it. If I change it to maybe, let me start from 7. You see how the object is. If I move out to 8, you can see it keeps moving along with it. It goes with it. 9, it moves, the A circle moves along with it, along with the A box, because it is a child object found within the A box. All right, so that is the absolute positioning of objects in our scene. So now let's try and go through and probably create maybe a yellow box in here, which we can use for our work. So for instance, we already have our A box. So this is for the relative absolute position. Now let's try and create an A box in here. So this time round, let me create this, minus minus. This time around, let's create maybe another a circle, maybe a yellow circle. So in this case, of course, in creating the a circle, we need a circle, just like how we did the other one. And within it, we give it the property and value, just like CSS. So we have, let's give it a property of color and a value yellow. You could type yellow in here, but I want to use the hash function, so probably C107. Then still on it, we can give it another property called side. We'll give it a side. Of course, we would want the side to be double. And finally, we can also give it a position. Let's see, the position is something quite similar to what we have for the A box. So we can see the object itself. So maybe we can use, let's say 0 for x-axis, 3 for y-axis. So you can see the object appearing in here. Then maybe minus, let's say 5. You see the object keeps getting closer to this. All right, let me see if I can. All right, so this is how the object is looking. Let us bring it a little forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's it. Okay, but shall we finish?
not yet, a minute. All right, so in this case, we can have, we have our A circle in here, and this, the position of the A circle is relative to the objects that we have here. It's not absolute, so we can even change this particular the position of the A box, and it will still not affect the position of our A circle. So that brings us to the video on positioning, relative position, and also absolute position. So that is how relative position, absolute position is. The A circle we have here has its position has nothing to do with this the position of the A box. So it can have its own position. But of course, the cylinder that we created earlier, which is this cylinder, by default is already at the position 0, 0. That is what we have here. If we should refresh the page right now, and you can see it's still at 0, 0. That is how come the camera is unable to define this. We can of course change the position of this, which is the X position, probably to -1. You can see if I change it to -1.4, the object keeps moving. It keeps moving little by little. So that is about the absolute position.